Hi everyone, I am here with a beautiful deck to take a look at. This deck is called the Magpies Lenormand, and one of the creators of this deck had reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to take a look at it and do a review of it. And I took a look at the Kickstarter for this version that we're going to look at right now. There is a Kickstarter that is going on right now that includes a different edition, I guess a second edition of this deck that we're going to look at today, as well as a light, like this is kind of dark color tones, inks and bleach, dark inks, blue, black inks and bleach that were used to create this. And the other one is similar and created in a similar way, but the inks being used are really sort of warm, goldy tones and really quite gorgeous. I will put a link to the current Kickstarter below so that you can see that. The cards are similar, but they're definitely redone, and they have there are differences between the two that are really quite gorgeous to see. So that is what we're going to be taking a look at today. Now, I want to point out that this is a Lenormand deck, but it's what I would call a Lenormand variant, right? And I think that we have a tradition of having variants in fortune telling decks and cards. There are many older examples of Lenormand variants, even as the Gypsy Witch cards, right, which have many of, if not, I don't use that one a lot, so I forget. I think it has all of, it may be missing one or two of the standard Lenormand, and then it has other ones added in to make a 52 card deck. We also have several like 52 card decks that are mostly Lenormand. This Hungarian one I think of has a variant. I know it has like a crown of thorns on it instead of a whip, but it's a 32 card based off of a 32 card deck. Even the Fatima Oracle cards, again, mostly Lenormand, but there's some variants there. As I said, the Gypsy is a playing card style Lenormand that's got extra cards that are built in. We see modern renditions of this as well, where people are starting to add sometimes a lot of different extra cards that you can either use as a whole or swap in as you would want. I think of the Celtic Lenormand, which is what I would call a variant, in that you can read all of these cards with it. Really leans into sort of nature, pagan ideologies, and it has cards to represent the Lord and the Lady, so to speak, or certainly divine masculine, divine feminine. And so you can use these all together, and various, you know, the snake as a snake, and then a snake that is transforming. So there's various cards that are added and swapped. So sometimes it's just additional cards. Sometimes there is just variants on the Lenormand cards themselves. So I know that as traditionalists, some of us can get a little bit like, oh, you know, don't change the original. And I certainly, there's a part of me that loves decks that, you know, at least give the basic cards and then have extra cards. But the tradition of having variants and variations is pretty strong in playing cards. We see this even in tarot back in a Minciati deck, back, say, with the Madrone that has extra pages, you know, male and female page, male and female knights. These idea of variants on sort of the core are nothing that is new to cartomancy for sure. So for me, the key is that the person purchasing the deck is aware that what they're purchasing is a variant. And I did take a look at the Kickstarter both the first one that this was on and then the second one, and it, you know, it was very clear that this has a different take on the querent and significant card, or the male and the female card, and that there are other shifts and changes to this as well. So that's all I care about with a variant, is that it's clear so that the person doesn't think what they're using is a traditional Lenormand deck, and that they're aware that there are some changes there. So that's what this is a beautiful variant, really leaning into nature. And I think that that was from what I remember reading something with the illustrator, having been exposed to Lenormand and enjoying Lenormand, because there's actually very little people, right, in Lenormand, and so it's a place to lean into more nature ideologies, and I think that that has just been enhanced in this particular deck, which is beautiful. So this version that she sent to me was obviously comes in this box here, and when you open it up, I'm going to tip at this so you can see it. These beautiful magpies. Again, it's a magpie Lenormand. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told. So that kind of magpie rhyme. This came, I think she just put some things in probably that were part of the Kickstarter campaign. This is a Ouija board, which is quite beautiful. I don't use Ouija boards. If you watch my channel, you know there's many things that I've shed with my fundamental Christian background, but I don't mess around with Ouija boards. I did get a kick out of the Kickstarter, said we do not recommend using it to contact demons or devils, which I would agree. I'm of the be careful of the doors that you open unless you are fully knowledgeable and prepared to shut them. But it's quite beautiful, and you could really, you know, just because it's so beautiful, like you could use it for a pendulum, because you could swing to the yes and swing to the no and just circle the beauty for the I'm not sure about that at the moment, right? So I think you could actually kind of use this for a pendulum board if you do use pendulums, but regardless, it's gorgeous, and I'm gonna set it up someplace. So there's that, and then here's some gorgeous stickers of magpies that I am most definitely going to be using in my planner. You again, people who watch my Sunday plan with me know I am a sticker fanatic, so this is absolutely gorgeous, and that will go into my sticker book. So, but here's the, you know, the base that we have here. We have this gorgeous little guidebook. I love little books like this that just, I don't know how, it sounds silly to say, right? It looks like a little book. Well, obviously it looks like a little book. It is a little book. But you know, just the way that the binding is done in the little hardcover, it just looks like a little book that is, these kinds of things really, oh my goodness, it's too sweet. So I love that. And then we have the box with the deck in it. This, now again, I don't know what edition, the box, I think with a new Kickstarter are kind of condensing it down to what looks like a hard box for this, a small hard, you know, just fitting it hard box for this one, as well as for the new light version of it. Again, I'll have a link for that below. This was, you know, the edition that they did for the first Kickstarter for the Magpie Lenormand. So I'm going to set this over here to the side for right now. It's absolutely gorgeous. Let's take a look. I generally like to take a peek at the guidebook first. So let's take a peek at that. This is in French and in English. And there are two, let's see if it shows, let me just peek to the back if there's like a introduction to the authors. I guess we'll just look for it. I'll come back to that in a second because it will be on the book or on the thing. Well, here we can see the copyright is Rosen Grosjean, and I know I'm slaughtering this. I am not French. I apologize. The illustrations are by her, and then the text is by Carl Mercurtuous. Oh my goodness. Oh, and that's too bright. You're not going to be able to see it. I will make note of it in the description box below because I know that I've just slaughtered that. And then I'm not sure what the traduction was. Traduction. So I don't know if that is the production of the deck and box and all of that. I'm not sure what I've heard of that word, traduction. So maybe we'll look it up in a minute. But this again was placed on a Kickstarter. So hello, fair querent. I love that opening. I think that makes me so happy. Consider this booklet your guide. If you look upon the cards and are unsure what they mean, if no inclination or wisdom comes to you, you may use this to discern meaning. And it does go on to say, these are not law, right? What comes to your mind when you see this? This is the heart of cartomancy, and these are simple symbols, right? And so they have the power to pull meanings from us because of that. Listen to your instincts. Lenormand is a very peculiar type of cartomancy. The dense symbology and mysticism of other traditional decks is not there. You may think of Lenormand as a more personal, direct conversation. Simple, beautiful pictography will lead the way. And so then it gives you a little bit of a intro to reading with Lenormand. It starts with a 2 card. Very happy to see it's not a 1 card. That's always like, no. 3 card, 5 card, 9 card, which is an amazing tableau that you can just stay for a long time, but does give you access to the grand tableau, which does it in the traditional 8x4+4, which is really beautiful. Now, it does talk about the fact that you will need to choose a significator. In traditional Lenormand, we have the significator of the male and the female, or some modern decks will be anima, animus. I use in my decks querent and significant. Different ways of doing that by being able to maybe step out of that sort of male-female binary. But I'm going to read this because it talks about this. The first task with the Grand Tableau is to find your card, your significator in the spread. With other Lenormand, this would simply be animus or anima if you are a man or a woman, respectively. The choice of representation of this version of Lenormand are not oriented towards these illustrations of binarity. And it says to see the maps or the descriptions of the caterpillar, chrysalis, and moth. Instead, look for the card that speaks to you the most. This can be any card, and it may change from day to day. So this is kind of removing those significator cards and giving you options, with the progression of the caterpillar, chrysalis, and moth, which we'll talk about more when we walk through the cards. It's really interesting how they've centered this, and I quite like it. I will say that I miss, to some degree, a static significator card, in the sense that, and this is just my own because of the way that I read Lenormand, when I'm pulling a 9 card, I shuffle, 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 turn the deck over, find the significator. There's no meaning to it other than being a significator, and I'll pull the cards in front and behind it to get that middle ground. But nothing is pulled out of what can come up randomly, because the significator card is just that. It's just a significator card. So in this case, the only thing that I would change with that is that in this case for a 9 card, I would just pull, as most people do, and just pull the whole thing randomly, and the center card will tell me something about what's going on with me or the person that I would be reading for, right? So it removes the clean significator card that doesn't remove anything out of play if you're using that. But I don't think for most people that's going to matter, and for me it's not going to matter. It just is me saying to myself, okay, I'm not going to lay the cards down that way. And we'll show that more at the end. But again, I like that this is laid out and explained, and I like the use of the caterpillar, chrysalis, and moth, and again, we'll talk more about that when we're going through the cards. But again, it's laid out there, and I like to see that there. So it gives you sort of the introduction. It's just a few pages, right? This is not going to teach you everything you need to know about Lenormand, but it's going to give you the key basics that you need. It's only 10 pages. And then it goes into the French version of what we just talked about. And then there's a section that goes into the cards themselves, and And you have the rider with the French name. You have the English message with keywords and a little, write-up about it. And then, of course, you have that in French. So there's not a lot of text here. There's not a lot of text needed for Lenormand. This is a perfectly great amount. I actually have skimmed through these, and I really like some of the way that they have sort of set the main kind of keywords at the top. So the rider is a visitor, a messenger, a temporary guest. The rider is a fleeting figure who enters the scene and then is gone, remaining only long enough to break the routine of the querent's life. Consider them a harbinger and react now before the opportunity passes as swiftly as they did. So you have the understanding that it's swift. You have the understanding that it is quickly bringing some news into, or it could be a visitor or a messenger bringing news in, and it's kind of as quick as it comes in, it can go out again. It's just there to leave you some information and go. Now, it doesn't lean into the fact that traditionally the writer would be seeing as good news, right? This isn't going to be, unless cards around it darken it, there isn't going to be negative news coming from the writer. But I think this is just leaning more into the proximity that what the news is going to matter, what house is it in, what cards are next to it, and those types of things there. So again, that's really, you don't need much more than that to jump into Lenormand. So that's, and then of course it goes through the rest of the cards, and we'll pop back into this as we need to for some of the card changes that as we walk through the cards themselves. So it's adorable. I think it's a perfect little white book for a Lenormand deck. So I quite love that. I'm going to flip that over so we can come back to it. And then here is the deck itself. Absolutely beautiful. I love all of the gold touches. I will say, because I didn't follow the Kickstarter, I was surprised because there's so much gold that when I turned and I opened the tuck box, and I will say this is a tough tuck box to open. That's tough to say without ripping it, because it's great cardstock, but it makes it kind of hard to open. That's probably why they've shifted to a box. I don't want to rip it, but it's gonna rip eventually. And it's, again, the cardstock of the box is really solid, which I think is why that lid's hard to get open there. But there's not, for me, there wasn't any way around just kind of bending it up there. But anyways, there's so much gold and black. I was really shocked by the blue of the sides. So we don't see a lot of blue, so I love that. But it was like, why was there blue? And then when you turn it over, you can really see the blue overtones of the ink. So it seems like the inks that were used were black, blue, and I know that there was bleach used as well in the illustrations. The illustrations are stunning, and there's a blue tone to them, but because everything was so gold and black, I was really surprised when I pulled the cards out to see the beautiful blue edges. So that's that. I don't know, again, you'll have to check the Kickstarter, but I'm assuming, I think I saw that. So I'm scrolling here on the newest Kickstarter to see, yes, so the blue stays, and then the new one is very pale and beautiful and has a gold and pink edges on it to go with it. So that is quite gorgeous. I'm going to actually leave this up so I can just mention where there are shifts and changes there. Okay, so let's put the box out of the way. Backs are stunning. Absolutely stunning. Obviously with Lenormand we don't use reversals, and so this is not reversible. It doesn't need to be. That is a gorgeous back. Size is more like, I would say, a regular tarot. As you know, I prefer my decks to Lenormand decks to be playing card size because I cannot use, yeah, so that's exactly sort of a standard tarot deck. So on the small side, right? So this is Smoke, Ash, and Embers, which is what I would call a small, used to be the standard tarot size. Now we see all kinds of crazy sizes with tarot, but this I would say is pretty standard to a small regular, versus, say, this is a bridge playing card, so that's not the best example. And let's grab poker size. This is a poker size. So you can see these are quite a bit taller and wider, and so that makes it quite difficult. I can't truthfully, even for clients, use a regular Lenormand. I have to use a little one so that they'll all fit on the table. So, but I have found, you know, I've been reading professionally, and Lenormand is more than 50%, or at least it's always held at 50% of my professional readings. I have found, because I do a lot of 9 cards, I also do a Get There spread and an expanded Get There spread that has, I use Lenormand's just 7 across. So I actually do have a place for larger cards, and this size card actually I think would go really beautifully for a Get There reading, and I can think of a tarot deck I think might go gorgeous with this as well. So I'll show that more towards the end. You know my preference. My preference for Lenormand is no bigger than a playing card size card, and then I love mini options just because of putting a whole grand tableau out. But I do, as I said, lots of 9 cards and lots of Get There readings in which I pull out my larger cards so that they're quite visible. So it's part of the toolkit, right? So that's that. Okay, we talked about the size, we talked about the back, we talked about the beautiful image. Let me zoom in here. There we go. Okay, so again, many of these are going to be very recognizable for the traditional Lenormand. There are just some shifts, and we'll talk about those as we go along the way. The first one that we have here is the rider. I love it that it's a horse. I love that the horse is running, has that sense of movement there, and swift speed. It's beautiful. The artwork on this deck is absolutely stunning. I really am a fan, if there are going to be borders, I'm a real fan of these that just use sort of a line, but the image still goes from edge to edge. I think it's really beautiful and just isn't interfering with the image. It makes a beautiful aesthetic to it, so I quite like that. So here we have the rider. Here we have the beautiful Clover. Again, they look very similar. If you go to the Guidebook or go to the Kickstarter of the new one that's in white, it's got a white background and it has more pinky goldy tones to it. They are very similar to the same images, but there are differences, like the horse is running in a different direction. It's kind of more at you. The clovers are very similar, but it seems to be more into the daytime, and so on and so forth. And then I'll talk a little bit more as we go, but they're quite stunning. Here we have, again, the Clover. Clover stands out really beautiful. Here we have the ship. This is really sweet with the leaf ship. Now, is this like scannable? You're going to know instantly, oh, you're looking at the ship? Probably not, but to be honest, you're going to figure it out pretty quickly, and this makes my heart so happy. It's a little leaf ship. I can think of Thumbelina riding on the leaf ship. That's so adorable. And it also really gives that sense of the long journey, right? So it's like really more expressing the meaning of the card than being too particular. And we'll see this in some other ones, than being too particular about that instant snag of the ship. Now, it's on the card. You can see the name, so it's not hard to be able to zoom, hone into it. But what I do love about this is, again, the perspective of it feels like a long journey because the ship is so little. So I actually quite enjoy that. Here we have the house, which is really interesting, again, because this is more leaning towards nature. This is like, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but it seems like a wasp nest. It seems like a nest that is a nest of some sort of creature. Well, you can see there's little bugs that are here. Are these firefly nest? Is this a it's some kind of an insect nest, which I think is gorgeous because we're leaning into nature. So this is really beautiful. The one that is in the new version is almost identical, I would say, to this one. Here we have the tree. Again, it's quite obvious. And again, this is all very dark tones. All of the cards are this dark tone, nighttime. So we have this beautiful new moon that is behind the tree card here, but it's a tree. Beautiful clouds, beautiful clouds. It doesn't have that traditional light on one side, dark. The light and darkness goes this way a little bit more. You could certainly look at things for darkness down here if you use that aspect. Every Lenormand card is different in that. So at this point, if you've been reading Lenormand for a while, you've either picked that it's going to come from this and always go to this way no matter what the picture is, or you're letting the card lead you in that direction as well. But that is beautiful use of light with this darkness. Here is the snake. I really liked, as I said, I liked the keywords here, like with the house, a sturdy foundation, a place to return, or a past home. The tree, a grounding, a stillness, a living thing. An obfuscate, that's such a hard word, but I love it. Obfuscation, a moment of doubt, a hidden conclusion. And I liked the snake, a new skin, a forward motion, a taste in the air. This is how I use this, right? Now, it does indicate this can be a patient threat that may spring like a heart, like a bear trap. So it's definitely showing that this could be dangerous. Now, for me, the snake is about complications that are leading to transformation, but it's still complicated. Again, nothing in here stops me from reading it that way. But I love that it does bring in some of those new skin as well as that subtle threat. So it depends on the situation at hand, which is beautiful. So again, I'm really a fan of these here, with a coffin, a mourning, a cocoon, a reliquary. This is gorgeous. This is like those cicada shells that you, up here anyways, we get cicadas. And so at a certain time of the year, there are all of these little cicada shells that are attached to trees and things like that. And there's nothing in them. It's the end of that particular space of that. Now, this may just be an insect who is passed on, but a cicada, it looks like a cicada shell, which is, to me, is quite beautiful. Gorgeous bouquet, absolutely beautiful, a lovely gift, a welcoming gesture, a pleasantry. So then when we get to the scythe, oh no, we have to go here. So I probably put these back in the wrong order. I pulled these out to look at these. So let's go here. I'm going to pull those out of the way. That's my fault. Here's the scythe. Now, obviously, we don't have a picture of scythe here. This is a nature deck. I think this is great because it definitely has that sense of the... now, I read the tool, right? So I read the scythe as a tool that is used to harvest and cut. So for me, the scythe here is the claws of the owl. And what you gain from the work and the using of the tool is a harvest. You're going to gain sustenance. This is what's happening here. This owl is sweeping down, going to grab a mouse, and it is going to have, a tasty meal. It's going to get something back from its work. And that works really gorgeous for me. Now, if you're reading the scythe in a way of a cessation or a cutting off, that would be from the perspective of the mouse, right? So it works either way. Quite beautiful. But again, you're not going to get this with that sort of scanning a full grand tableau. I truthfully don't know how many people will be laying out grand tableaus with this, just given the size. So in a 9-card, in a 5-card string, in a 3-card string, it's going to be quite easy to be able to see what it is because we've got the names here. And so it's not so much about scanning like with a grand tableau where it helps to be able to just quickly see scythe, quickly see this, right? But either way, if you love a deck and you want a nature Lenormand, then you're just going to have to take that time to learn the deck that you're using, and I don't think it will be hard to do so. I also really love the use of lightning for the whip. There is that crash and that crack of the whip, what they're basing that on. Now, this is interesting for me because I use the whip more in that sense of a pattern. Let's see what they say here. A sharp snap, a contentious moment, a sudden noise, that sort of argument that we see in the sense of the whip. The whip cracks like thunder and demands attention. An argument boils over into a fight and someone is on the defensive. Finding a constructive way through might be impossible with tempers flaring. This is very much a way of looking at the whip card that's traditional, and I think it's a great idea in a natural setting to use lightning. Now, I use the whip very much for these sort of patterns that we fall into, and I still like the lightning because I just remember as a child, I love thunderstorms. I know not everybody does, but I love thunder and lightning storms, and that sort of finding the pattern when you're listening to a thunderstorm, you're waiting for the thunder to roll and then that lightning to crack, right? And then the thunder to roll and the lightning to crack, and there's this pattern, this rhythm that you can roll into. So I can definitely work with this as a whip, and again, this is a traditional meaning of the whip. So I think that was really brilliant to use lightning there. Here we have the birds. Let's see what they say here. A fluttering heart, a gathering, and a chorus of chirps. It does bring up the word anxious. They may have lived within a cage of ribs, an anxious desire to escape and flight. Alternatively, they may be in the trees, in the air, a noisy distraction scattering focus, a nervous tension. These are all ways in which I utilize the bird. They don't even talk about it as being what, sometimes people use it as audible messages. Again, we only have 36 cards, right? I don't need 3 cards potentially, the letter, the rider, and the birds to all be about messages. For me, it is about nervous tension, anxiety, distraction of the mind, but nothing in this image makes it so that you can't use it however you would like to use it. Here we have the fox. I am so glad that was not... Okay, so this is where... I'm going to pause for a minute. This is where the caterpillar and the chrysalis and the moth... Oops, I don't even think I'm... There we go. Sorry about that. I was watching the cards and not the camera. So these are where these beautiful cards come into play. And you can obviously slide them to see that it is one that actually the image crosses over between the 3. Okay, so now because there's no people in this deck, right? Because this is a nature's Lenormand deck. I love this, that they've given you more of a trajectory of where are you at right now. Now, the energy of the caterpillar is the child. Obviously, we don't have a child in this deck. There's not people in the deck. But the energy of the child is in the caterpillar. So, for example, a new emergence, a soft beginning, a long path ahead, right? This is that fresh newness of the caterpillar here. And so that's what we have for the caterpillar. And then it goes into the chrysalid, which is a stillness, a time of great change, an internal turbulence. Now, I don't think that we have, this doesn't directly, so what I've done is I've taken my sort of grand tableau spread here, right? And shown where all of the things with check marks are just, they're called what they card. The image might be different, but it's the same Lenormand card. The child has been replaced by the caterpillar, and the stork energy has been replaced by the moth. Then we have, of course, 2 cards that aren't in here because there's no people or significators. Well, these can be significators, but there's no people cards. So the child has been changed to the caterpillar. You've taken these 2 cards, and one of them is a chrysalid. It's not the energy, but they've placed the energy replaced it with Chrysalid, and then we'll see they've replaced and added a card cat. So again, these are not replacing of man and women, but these 2 card spots, there's 36 cards in this deck. They have used all of the traditional imagery. The child has been replaced by the caterpillar. The stork has been replaced by the moth. The cross has been replaced by the albatross, which is perfect. We'll get there in a minute. And then they had 2 blank cards, basically, because they're not using the man and the woman, and they've added in the Chrysalid and the cat to fill out this Lenormand variant. And so the energy, this isn't something I would say is directly there, and I quite like it because it's, to me, similar to the Patience card or the Her Thoughts card in Kipper. And Kipper, that card is such an important card for me because so much is telling people just be patient, like just hold on, or the 7 of Pentacles in tarot. Sometimes we just need to have patience, and there are things that you can get to that idea with Lenormand, but this I think is really, really fantastic addition. If you're going to make this variant, remove the male and female, I think that's a great addition to the deck. And then the moth, like I said, is about that positive movement forward that we would have with the stork card there. So this is sort of a variant. This is a variant. This is pretty much child energy. This is stork energy. It replaces those. And this is a part of the variant of the deck in the sense that it's kind of a new energy added in. And I think it's really beautiful. But when you think of this in case of significators, are you coming to this reading as the child, as there's something new is happening and you really want to get a reading on that? You're feeling kind of fresh, or you're trying to get a fresh energy, then maybe that's your significator. Are you in a place of stagnancy, a place in which things really aren't moving? This is often a place in which clients come to get readings for. Then the Chrysalid may be your significator, right? This is where does the situation stand? Are you like full steam ahead and moving forward? Then this might be your significator card. So these 3, instead of being about what is your gender, it's about where are you at, and how. Now you can pick any card for your significator in the whole deck, but this is kind of set up to be able to work that way, which I think is really cool and quite beautiful. So that would be the next 3 cards: the caterpillar, the Chrysalid, and the moth. Okay. So that would have gone next. I just had stuck those when I pulled them out to see what they were doing. That's where they got put. Okay, so then let's come back here. Thankfully, my beloved fox is intact. Of course, it's a natural creature, so that's going to be the case. So here we have the fox. Again, you can read this however you read it. There's nothing here that boxes you in, which I love. This is a beautiful bear. I love the bear card to dig deep into your own gifts. Now, they put this as an immovable object, a grand figure, a set of clear eyes. But I like this when they stand tall, risen up in defense of their own. Their presence varies depending who, because this can be the mentor figure, somebody who is there and has your back. I also read the bear as that sort of, where are your inner gifts coming to play here? And this works perfectly fine. It's beautiful. Absolutely stunning artwork. Love the stars. Love the stars. What can I say? It's a sight I see in the sky. I love this. Beautiful dog. And now again, in this deck, they have a dog and a cat. And I quite like this. Again, we do see cats in other fortune-telling style decks. That is a common card being put in. What's interesting is that these kind of go well because you look at the dog and it's as a loyal companion. It's like that good boy, it even says on the thing. This is somebody who is really there for you, somebody that you can trust, but it's also somebody who is really trying to please people. And so this can be a powerful support that devotion can really be something that we need. The cat here is also seen as a support, but not when this is much more like Bagheera energy, Panther energy, you know, where they're there in their support, but they're just as likely to swipe you with their claws to remind you to get on the path as they are to, you know, lick your face. So this has a free will, a friendly shadow, a watcher on a high perch. So it doesn't show this as being malevolent, but one that is going to help, but in a little bit of a different way, and really indicates independent energy. Whereas dogs, if you've had dogs and cats, I have, they are very different creatures. And, you know, dogs really do want to be part of the pack. They want to be, you know, they want you to love them. They have this pure, beautiful, loyal energy about them. You cannot expect the same thing from a cat. They come about their love and their connection in very different ways. Now, will you get cats that are super snuggly and like that? Yes, but then you're also going to get many of them which are just like, I will give you love on my own terms and in my own timing, right? So it's quite beautiful to see the synergy and how those could show up in readings. Love this tower. Can we talk about how much I love this tower? I love this tower. The web, she is up there. She's got a bigger picture. Think about Charlotte's web. You know, Wilbur can't see himself really clearly from down where he is. Whereas Charlotte is so wise. She's up in her web. She's got a better perspective. She sees the bigger picture of what's going on and is going to help out the situation because she knows this isn't going where he thinks it's going, right? So I love this. Absolutely stunning. It's a great tower. This is just stunning. Absolutely stunning. Garden. Beautiful mountain. Mountain is a mountain. It's part of nature. I love this crossroads, right? Again, we've got the insect here. We've got the ant who has made all of these different pathways, but it's coming up on this juncture where it's got to pick which direction that it's going to go in. I love, love, love this. Here we have the mice. I love them on the grain of sand, or on the grain of sand, the grain of wheat here. It's just a beautiful image of the mice. The heart, so again, we don't have a human heart like we sometimes have. We don't have a, you know, the drawn kind of, I don't know what you would even call that, the graphic heart that we see so often, right? We have the mother, a deer, because it's nature, and we have the mother's love for her fawn, which is so beautiful. Again, heart's right here. It's not going to take you long to connect with that as the heart. I love the ring, and we do have, is this the only so far? I would say, well, you do have hoofs, or it looks like horseshoes on the horse, but I would say for the most, because even the ship is the leaf, because these aren't people, you do have a collar on the dog, whereas not on the cat, who's more independent. So there are, and then a garden, of course, with the garden bench. So there are very little touches of anything to do with human beings, but we do have the ring. Magpies do like to collect things, and so we have that ring in its beak, which I think is gorgeous. Here we have the book. I love, again, this, again, now we do have a book, which is a book is a book, right? And so you actually have a book here, but I love the curious, you know, they might be crows, or maybe they're little magpies in the dark, probably because this is the Magpie Lenormand. Really sweet. Letter. Very clearly the letter here. I love though that we have a dove or a pigeon, you know, the pigeons that can carry the messages. So you have that connotation connected to it as well. We have the beautiful lily. I love that they're white. It doesn't matter. You know, lily's a lily is a lily, but I prefer white lilies, so I think it is gorgeous. Gorgeous sun, because this is a dark deck, right? This is all taking place at night. We have very dark backgrounds with light just beautifully popping through in colors, like even the garden and the stars, but I'm thinking the garden especially had just beautiful use of light, which of course there, I mean, that is just so stunning. But that is gorgeous with the mountains in the backdrop and the sun just shining through is gorgeous, with then the moon that we have here. It's very water. It's like we're looking at the moon in a reflection in the water, which is gorgeous. The artwork is stunning in this deck. Absolutely stunning. Here we have the key. Again, we do have it. As soon as I said, well, there's not a lot of human objects, and we hit on all the ones that, you know, it's a key. The key is a key is a key. And we almost look like we have a keyhole, a large keyhole here as well. It's quite beautiful. The fish, gorgeous. Love goldfish so much. The anchor, love the octopus there. And then I really love the use of the albatross here. I'm going to read the passage because I think it's really well done. A lot of times people have changed this. I've seen this as, you know, because to take that sort of specific religion connotation of the cross, which is again symbolic, and I can use it and it works perfectly fine. But some people have done bridges. I'm trying to think. Now it's the only one that I've seen that can think of that people have changed is the bridge, but I know there's other ones that have changed this last card. This says Retribution, Causality, and Inescapable Path. The albatross is the truest symbol of what has been earned. As the bird flies alongside lonely ships, it is a welcome relief for tired eyes. Its very existence is a gift, but hung around the neck, you know, they talk about an albatross around your neck, but hung around the neck, it is heavy and an emblem for all to see of a callous mistake. Some decisions cannot be rectified. Make the right one. Now, this is interesting. I don't really necessarily think about the cross card as being as a result of a decision, right? Now, it is technically, right? Jesus chose to go onto the cross and bear the weight of the world, right? We choose in a Christian context to pick up the heavy burden and bear the burden there, right? So the old symbology of the cross has a lot of that heavy taking on the cross ideology. So I can certainly see that we've made a choice and now we have to bear the albatross around our neck. In general, though, I do see the cross card as just being a weight. Sometimes it's the consequences of choices and sometimes it's not. But there is sort of this card is beautiful, and there is this sense of loneliness when you think about an albatross. And again, because I always think of that albatross around the neck, that idea of weight and heaviness, however that might have come about, isn't, you know, I don't have to take that meaning on, but I did think it was quite interesting and beautiful. Now, what I love is, again, they say straight out in the beginning of the book, go with what your reactions are on your own, and then if you're looking for other variations, then come here. But it's you know, you're not forced to use our meaning. So they were quite clear about that. Okay, so that's the last card, of course, 36. A little bit faster and easier, right, than a 78 card deck. Let me put my pencil away. And let's see how it shuffles. It feels amazing. It's like a matte. Yeah, it shuffles really well. It's a thicker matte cardstock, but there's only 36 cards, so it riffles really beautifully. Do as I say, not as I do. You are not technically supposed to riffle shuffle gilded edges. I do. I don't mind if my decks look like they have been used. If it's good gilding, it will wear beautifully. I have some beautifully gilded decks like the first edition Fountain Tarot. The gilding on that has worn just absolutely gorgeous. Can you tell it's been shuffled? Yes, but it's still beautiful in its own right. But if you are trying, I don't care to keep mine in pristine condition. If you are trying to keep yours in pristine condition, then I would not be riffle shuffling your deck. All right. So what I was saying is that because there's two things you can do here. One is if you are obviously just see, the thing with me, I'm different than other people, right? And the way that I work with Lenormand, proximity for me is key. That's my main first level of importance is proximity. So whenever I do a 3 card, a 5 card, a 9 card, I am turning the deck over and finding the significator and pulling the cards before and after it. So let's say a client came to me and said, you know, I want to do a 9 card reading. I'm feeling really stuck right now. This is a very common question. Then what I would do is I'd turn the deck over and I would find, in this case, I would look for the Chrysalid. I think Chrysalis, but it's put as Chrysalid. But excuse me if I say Chrysalis. So I would find the Chrysalis card, right? And then I would put the 4 cards after it. I'll straighten them out. And I would put the 4 cards before it. And there you go. I can still use my significator and find it and still use my proximity. I would just be choosing based on the question, based on what the conversation with the client is. I would choose which significator I was going to use, lay the cards out as I normally do, right? So I can still choose a significator and lay the cards around it. Obviously, the other thing that you can do is just lay them all out as you would normally, and whatever is in that center position is going to tell you something about yourself or about the situation, or but for me, about the client that I'm reading for in this situation that I might need to pay attention to, right? So that's the same irregardless. They just have, instead of choosing your significator based off of your gender, it's what's the situation, where in this sort of movement, is it new beginning energy, is it paused energy, that's slow and paused and not moving, stagnant, stuck even energy, or is this, you know, I got stuff to do, like I am starting a new business, I need to get this moving in the direction that I need it, then I would pick the Moth, right? Or again, it may be a work situation, then I'm going to pick the Anchor card. It might be a love situation, then I'm going to pick the Heart card if they're looking for love, a Ring card if they are already in a relationship. So it's really, this doesn't change much once you're just kind of aware of how to watch for your significator. And making sure you pick that first, obviously, before you go into the reading, especially in a grand tableau, so that you can see where that significator lands in the grand tableau. So there's that. I have in my mind, give me a second here to play. So let's say, what I kind of like here is, let's say, I'm going to take somebody who's already asked me a question. I just did expanded Get There reading, and I'm going to say, okay, well, I won't. I'll just use this in general. I get this question a lot. So somebody is feeling stuck, and but what they want is to get moving, right? So then I would pick, this is a Get There reading. I have video on this, so I'm not going to go into in-depth here, but this is an old Kipper reading. You pick who are you, where are you now, and where are you trying to get to? And so let's say the Moth, they want to get moving down the road, or the Stars, they want to be on the right path, right? But let's say this person is stuck, they want to get moving, and so that's who represents them now. This represents where they want to go, and then you're going to lay the cards down. I always lay the first 3 cards face up because that's a primary message that you're going to get. So they're at a crossroads, but there is a weight there, right? Now, you can read this a couple ways. For me, I'm going to center this around my client. This could be, you need to get somebody that's going to help you, right? Somebody who's going to stand up for you and be a mentor to you as you move forward. But this can also be, it's time to dig deep. There's a heaviness here. You have what you need to be able to move forward. You're just going to have to really dig deep and mine your own resources, mine your own strengths and your gifts. And then generally, I've put the 4 cards down. This is so beautiful. I will definitely be using this deck in this reading. But I think I have a tarot deck. So you can just do it like this. So sometimes it's just a get there and you just do it like this, and then we want to see, okay, this is what we need to hear right now. This is what we want to hear as we move forward. So I'll just go ahead and do that, and then I'll show it with the tarot. So then I'll pull over the next two cards and I'll be like, okay, so we have the mice. There are lots of little things that are eating at your opportunity to gain the beautiful good things that you're looking for yourself. So we have two things here we have that we can say to ourselves, that you are our person we're reading for. There's this weight here, and the way to kind of push past that is to dig deep into your own resources. But be aware that there's a lot of little problems that are, it's not just one thing. It's not just the mountain at this point. It's not just the mountain that's blocking you from your happiness. There's lots of little things that you need to dig deep and deal with these little issues so that you can be able to move forward and gain the happiness that you're looking for. We have the letter here, and then this one, and the lily. So for me, I read the letter differently than most people. Let's just out of curiosity see what they put the letter as. One moment, please. There we go. A seal of wax, an extended hand, a signature. So it does speak to an important message. Direction is key. I do use the letter for a document. So if there's a document, but if not, for me, it's that putting ink to paper. It is that pulling ideas out of the head and putting them. I like this idea of a direction. You're directing your energy and manifesting things towards balance, right? You're not really going all, at this point, it's not the time necessarily to go all in and just in this general reading. It's not this, you know, get everything done and have everything come back perfect to you at once. It's about dealing with the small problems that are had and setting some things into motion, setting some direction ahead for yourself that is going to rebalance things so that you can move forward as you need to do. Again, this isn't a real reading, but just, you know, kind of giving you the idea. So this is just a simple get there reading, but if I wanted to expand that out with the tarot deck as I do, sorry, you're going to get my mouse and everything else too. Let me grab something I thought might work with this. Now this will be quite bright in the darkness, which I think would be a beautiful contrast. This is the Naked Heart Tarot. Just because it's all animal-y as well, it just made me think of that would be a beautiful, look at that, that'll look so beautiful. I will definitely be using this combination. So again, this isn't a real reading, but I expand this, for, you know, depending on, obviously you can, somebody may just purchase this or they may purchase the expanded, where all I do is add in 3 tarot cards at the beginning. I always look to the middle first and then, you know, go up from there to, but the Lenormand message is the predominant message. The tarot does not trump the Lenormand. I'll just lay, normally I lay, these are all face down, these are all face down until I come to the expanded message, right? But I love that. It's not the same art style, it's not the same creator, but I think that looks gorgeous. And again, it's all animals, and so that can work really, really well. So then I would use this to amplify the message that I received here. I would use these to amplify the going forward message that I received here. Time to shake things up again. We know that there's a weight because of the Albatross here. We know there's a weight, so there needs to be a shake-up, both in the mental realm and just in life itself. Again, not a real reading, but that's, you know, how you would move in with that. So for this type, for 9 cards, for me, as this is, you know, obviously how I would use this deck because of how I read for clients. It's mostly going to, I would use this for 9 cards, and I would use this for get theirs and expanding. It's just beautiful. And I definitely, I can think of some other decks I could pull out as well, but I liked the idea of it just being animals. To kind of keep with that nature theme of the rest of it. So very, very beautiful deck, either on its own or with other things. I'm definitely looking forward to using this. And again, would you pick this if you're going to learn Lenormand from scratch and you don't have any other Lenormand decks? I mean, it might get you interested in Lenormand, and then you should pick up a traditional Lenormand just so you have the base of you know, traditional Lenormand positions and cards without the variant being there. But if you're a Lenormand user, this is very easy to use. It very much is easy to lean into the energy. I again love the Chrysalis, the Caterpillar Chrysalis and Moth there, and I do like the added energy of the cat there as well, because it's a different kind of support. Sometimes we need the nurturing, loving, over the top, I just love you and miss you so much energy of dog, and sometimes we need the support that's a little bit more like going to shove you out of the tree and say, you know, I'm here for you, but time for you to to do some of this on your own kind of energy as well. So I look forward to that kind of added energy in with some readings. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. Again, this has been a look at the Magpies Lenormand. The Kickstarter that's currently going is a light variation of this. So this would be like the dark variation, not in darkness like negative, but dark tone, black nighttime, and to with a white background and glowy golds and pink tones to the other. And the images are not all the same. They really complement it and go with it beautifully, but they're not the exact same images. They've been repainted, and it's just gorgeous. So you can take a look at that below. If, again, you may be watching this years in the future, that will not still be going, but at the time of putting this out, that's what we're looking at. So I'm really glad I got to have a look at this Lenormand, and I hope you've enjoyed this.